starts to share. I'm going to check on my Facebook to make sure we're going live. Oops, reset. Okay. All right, we're live. I can see us.
Okay.
Yay. So I'm going to just, if I look over here, it's because I'm just checking to see the comments if anyone says anything. Because I can't see the comments on my computer screen. I can only see them on my phone. All right. So welcome those who come live. I am so excited for our conversation today. I was just telling Mrs. Zoe here that we don't do the fluff or the fake or the force here. And I told her, this is the place to be real, and she's all in for that. So everyone that joins live, everyone that catches a replay, I want you to know that, and I want you to hear that this is a place where we're just meant to be real here. We're meant to meaningfully connect, to not do this kind of like fake or forced connection. Anything I offer you, it's coming from the heart, coming from my own experience, and anything anyone in these interviews is offering you is coming from their heart and is coming from their experience. So Zoe and I, we met in I guess it was the fall, winter-ish of last year when I was doing a free mom support group. I just knew that there were a lot of moms out there struggling, and I'm a mom myself, so I just wanted to offer this support. And there was something that Zoe felt, and I'm sure she'll share that, that led her to further connect. And so we have been working together, and I have to say that it has been my honor. So Zoe always says she appreciates me, but I don't think you realize how much I appreciate you. You have been such a beautiful blessing to work with because you were ready. And I think that's an important part for people to hear when we get there too, like in your story, is it's not that some people want it more than others when things are going really rough and rampant in our life. It's just that we're at different places of readiness in our life. And so when you're ready to make that commitment and that investment in yourself, it's such a significant catalyst that can help us move forward. I can see some folks are joining us live. If you want to tell us who you are, go ahead below. Tell us you're here. If you don't, that's fine too. But we don't know who you are unless you tell us. So thanks for joining us. So Zoe, can you, before we jump into the challenge and all the things that you were experiencing, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are now, what you do, a little bit about your family, and what really is meaningful, what matters to you in your life?
Yes. So I am probably first and foremost a mom. I have two little boys that are just about to be 7 and 5. I live with my husband and my two boys, and I work full time for this exact moment at home, but we're about to go back into the office, so big changes coming. And like, a lot of people over the last 2 years, year and a half-ish, we've had two working parents at home with kids at home full time at various times within that year and a half, and it's been a challenge.
To say
So
the least, right?
that's kind of in a nutshell who I am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know who I am Toni. I'm founder of this group. Very glad, very happy, very appreciative to have this group. It's a brand new group, it's a growing community. And if anything that Zoe shares connects with you, you can comment below. Let us know that it's inspiring to you. If you want to share your story, there's an app in the announcement at the top. It should be pinned to the top of the group, and you can go ahead and you can apply to share your story too. I'll look it over, see if it's a good fit. We'll talk and go from there. But Zoe has so generously, so graciously, and so courageously decided to share her story with us today. And so, Zoe, I think for a lot of people, there is that like it looks all good on the outside, right? So you said like I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I live at home with my two, wonderful children. We're both fully employed, right? But then behind the scenes things feel so much different. And so I think in the social media world this is a really important conversation to have because I hear it all the time. It's like, well, I'm looking on social media, this, that, and the other that this person has up, and why do they seem so happy? Why do they seem so successful? Why do they, right? And so things look put together on the outside. And I think that's might be part of your story too, is like people that looked at you, you're a very strong woman, independent, you're a fixer, you're very responsible, right? Like you look very put together on the outside. And it's not that you weren't necessarily, but how you were feeling on the inside is really what brought you to me. So why don't you kind of kick us off there and tell us what comes up, like what's the strongest for how this came about, the challenges that you were experiencing that brought you to want to change your life and not feel so trapped.
So I I'll go back to December 19. I started a program that was marketed sort of as Save Your Marriage, because that's where I was feeling that I needed to be. And it led me to do a lot of um, internal work. And I was seeing a little bit of progress in my marriage. And then the pandemic hit, and we all got trapped inside. And for me personally, I was sort of having like an existential crisis. Like, why am I here? Why, what is my purpose? And how am I supposed to fulfill that when, the world is crumbling around us?
Mhm.
Else is we moved states in June of 19 and didn't really get settled until the end of 2019. So we didn't really know anybody when the pandemic hit. And so I felt very much alone. I have my friends and my family who all live far away. And so I could talk on the phone, but that wasn't really enough. And I was in some Facebook group, and um, Dr. Toni came in and said, "Hey, I'm doing this mom's connection group," and I thought, "All right, I need to connect." So I did. It was once a week in the evenings, and it was this fantastic small group of moms just kind of sharing about life and what everybody was going through. And I realized that it was really helpful for me to have community, but also that I I could get help for myself.
Mm.
Um, and it didn't have to be based on my marriage, because really that was the thing that I was struggling with the most. But within that, I really needed to look at myself and what was going on within me to make progress. And so I was Dr. Toni is wonderful, and I wanted to connect with her further. So she and I started working together right after that women's group, moms group ended. And my first, you know, the thing that I noticed first when I talked about what was going on in my life is that I felt just completely trapped, both physically because we couldn't really go anywhere, and mentally by just my circumstances. I work full time. My husband works full time. We have these two small children that need to be cared for still, pretty hands on. And my husband was in a job, he was spiraling very much downhill, drinking a lot. And so I didn't really have any support at all. And it was
Mhm.
just me. And so I was looking for some way to both become stronger for my own family, but also to just get a little bit of support.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to, have your family far away that you can talk to, or your friends, but I really needed to be strong for myself, and I didn't feel like that was the case.
Yeah, and that feeling of trapped, I think, is unfortunately so common. I know you and I have spoken about it, and others as well, is oftentimes because we're so used to that comparing and looking at people on social media, thinking, believing that they aren't feeling trapped, that they couldn't possibly relate, that we're in it all alone, leaves us to just feel worse. leaves us to just languish more, to feel even more trapped. I know you mentioned the word languish in one of those newspaper articles that you read, but that's a big one that people feel too, is like, oh well, I should be okay because really I do have what I need, right? Like I should just be grateful. And then it's like you get in this place where you feel bad, you feel trapped, but like you tell yourself that you shouldn't. And I think a lot of people are there, and you can't control your partner. You can't control like the developmental stage of your kids and the needs that they have, right? Like you can't control the pandemic. And so I think maybe it might be helpful for people to hear them, for you, Zoe, as someone that you are very strong, very independent, very skilled, like very talented, very much like a responsible, loving, compassionate person that a lot of people lean on and probably don't realize that you were feeling trapped behind the scenes. I think it might be important for people to hear, for you, what helped you to not feel trapped when there were so many things that you couldn't control, so to speak.
So the first exercise that really resonated with me, I think we went through the good day, bad day exercise, and Dr. Tony walked me through with the exact same words, thinking about what does a bad day look like for you. And my anxiety went up, my heart rate was up,
Mm-hmm.
I start getting nauseous, I have these horrible feelings. And then afterwards walked through a good day, but asked me the exact same questions. So what does a good day look like for you? And all of a sudden I was in this totally different place, and the only thing that changed were my thoughts. That's it. um, and for me that was really powerful to understand how much control my thoughts had over
Mm-hmm.
every day of my life. And so the first thing that I remember telling Dr. Tony is that I woke up every day feeling anxious because I was always worried about, did my husband drink? Was he going to be able to perform his responsibilities? What did I need to shift around in my workday to figure out how to manage the kids? And just all the thoughts running through my head. And it was really exhausting waking up that anxious every day, because that then follows you for the whole day. So the first thing I did was just start waking up with this sense of, I can only control me, and that's all I can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And almost immediately I was able to kind of stop those feelings of anxiety when I woke up.
Mm.
Not to say they're gone entirely. I mean, we can't control our thoughts all the time, but
Right.
for me, just the knowing that my thoughts had that much control over my day was very powerful.
That's
And
huge.
then after that,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
After that, I think we did an activity to identify our core values. And for me, that was also very powerful to figure out, when I myself wasn't acknowledging my core values and living in my core values
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day, that was really affecting me as well.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing for me is honesty and authenticity. And Dr. Tony still talks to me about this, but that first, when I think of that, I think of that with other people. Like, I appreciate when other people are authentic and when they're honest with me, and have always really been like that. But what's more important is that I'm like that with myself, and that I can speak to myself honestly and authentically, and listen to my own voice. And that was something I'm still working on that.
Yeah, yeah. And
So that was something that also helped me.
I think this it's so great that you're sharing the specifics of it too, because I think sometimes when people hear part of the backstory, they're like, but how? Right? And don't get me wrong. So what Zoe's talking about is a high level one-to-one coaching program with me, and that's what the exercises she's talking about. But different exercises will be more powerful for different people depending on where you're at in your journey. So these are the ones that really stuck out to Zoe, and these are really powerful ones, but different ones, work for different people. So the how isn't necessarily always the same for everyone. But I'm glad that you're sharing some of that, Zoe, because then it feels a little bit less abstract, I think, for people that are trying to understand, like, how did you like feel so trapped in so many areas, and start to feel this shift. And another part that's important is that this is a significant shift. So Zoe shared with me that she was waking up with anxiety and feeling anxious all day on a daily basis, to not waking up with anxiety and not feeling anxiety on a daily basis, right? That is a significant shift. So, yes, that happens in a handful of months, but note also that she said, and there's still areas that I'm working on, right? So, I'm really big on not like these like fake promises. So, absolutely, when you feel ready, right? When you have a lot going on, you feel ready to make that commitment and investment in yourself, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's therapy, maybe it's coaching, whatever that is for you. It makes a huge difference, and you can progress a lot in a fairly short period of time, but you're never done. We're always evolving. And I think for me, that was a huge thing too. And Zoe, you can tell us if you can relate. It was like, well, if I could just get it done, if I could just get this thing done, if I could just reach this goal. Like when I was in burnout, that was a big thing, and it burnt me out even more, because every time you're like, if I could just then, and I would get there and I'm like exhausted, but then there was just another goal to get to, another achievement to have, another thing to accomplish, rather than accepting like, yes, we can move through this challenge, we can learn from it, we can grow from it, and also we're still always journeying through life. Does that resonate with you, Zoe? Do you feel like that was like an important part of your journey?
Yes, I think something that I am still working on is I've always been very type A and planner,
Mm-hmm.
um, to the point that I got to a certain point in my life where life did not go according to plan, and it really put me into a spiral. And I've been working a lot recently with Dr. Toni about learning how to just not necessarily know the outcome,
Mm.
just keep living, and doing, what every make the next right decision, right? I think that's been said by other people a few times. But if I focus too much on what's going to happen in the future, that's when I start freaking out.
Mm.
um, so it's a lot. I don't want to say productive, because we don't need to be productive all the time, but it's a lot healthier, I guess, for me and my brain and my sanity to just do what I think is the right decision now. And that involves listening to my inner voice, being honest with myself, and starting to live into those core values, like I talked about. And this sounds really silly, but this was an activity that also spoke to me. um, Once we identified, or I identified what my core values were, I did a little art project and painted those words on a piece of wood that we had in our garage, and made it a project with my kids. They did their own paintings, and I put that painting in my bathroom so that every morning I see those words. And while it can seem sort of passive, every day those words are staring at me. And so, in some way, whether I read them intentionally or not,
Mhm.
they are there for me to look at and to remember that, you know, this is how I want to live. This is what makes me feel like my full self.
Mm. And so, for those women or men out there that feel trapped either in an unhealthy or toxic relationship, or just trapped in this part of their life, like on that hamster wheel, what might be one of the biggest things you would want to share with them that's coming from like your own experience and your own journey from these past several months?
So honestly, I'm fairly amazed at how different I feel right
Mm.
now compared to a few months ago, only because there's not been some massive solution that I can identify to say, well, this is how you do this, which is what we all like to find. Like,
Mhm.
here's the trick, here's
Yeah.
how you get untrapped. Um, it was more so just making these different decisions every day, um, to figure out what I should do next. And I think really the biggest thing has been listening to myself, which is really harder to do than it sounds.
Yeah. True.
Um, and showing compassion to myself and just taking small steps. I incorporated some small thing into my routine gradually, maybe one every month or every couple months, that I really enjoyed or that added, something to my day. And that really helped out. And there's no real solution, just
Yes.
one thing that can help.
There's no quick fix, and I also think that that's so important for everyone to hear because in a world where there are constant demands and there is this expectation that you're not selfish or you're working towards a particular external accomplishment, it can be hard to take a different approach. But that's really what I'm hearing, Zoe, that you have gleaned from our work together is I had to take a different approach because the other approach wasn't working for me anymore. Right? So I had to try a different approach on, and the entire situation or the entirety of the circumstances or needing someone else or something else to change completely isn't what actually has helped you feel more free rather than trapped. Right?
Yeah, I was going to make the point. I mean, if you looked from the outside, my life looks exactly the same, to an outsider. So it's not any big move that I've made. It's just really all about how I am living, how I am thinking, what the way I am talking to myself. And it's made huge changes, with relationships in my job. There's an ease that is coming to
Mm-hmm.
my life that I don't think I've felt before.
Oh,
And it's not really, you can't really put a pinpoint on it, although I think it's mostly that I'm living more the way I'd like to live.
I love that. I love that because especially the achievers, like really, I think you said type A, like folks that are really out there, like going, 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 like used to really like putting the pedal to the metal. I think that sometimes it's hard to believe that ease is possible. Ease almost feels like laziness or like lack of product. Like it's bad, but desired, but bad. So like we can't
Mhm.
can't really, you have to secretly want it. You can't really want it because you can't really have it. Right. And so to hear you say that hits my heart because that's one of the things that I think we're missing. It's one of the things I was missing was allowing the ease and for the ease to be okay, for it not to mean something bad about me, for it not to mean that I'm not successful or I'm not productive or I'm not accomplished. Like ease is actually a part of the ebb and flow of life. But if we don't allow it, then we exhaust ourselves and burn out. So hearing you say that, we didn't plan any of this out, by the way. We didn't like pre-assemble any of these questions, or we're just having this conversation. So I didn't tell her to talk about ease. So I'm glad to hear that that's something that sticks out to you to share. Is there anything that you feel like you didn't share either about the struggle that you experienced, what you learned through it, or where you're at now that you would really like to share?
So I think it's hard to see progress day to day. Um, that's why I have Dr. Tony to tell me when there's progress. um, but it, if I look back at 6 months ago where I was, I can surely see that there's a difference. And that is not to say that, my life has been quote unquote fixed. or everything is easy. I still have problems in my marriage, um, though I deal with them differently, which is helpful. I I am able to both give compassion to myself and to others in a way that I was not able to do before. I think I'm able to be more present in moments with my family where I was not able to do that
Mm,
before because I'm not
yeah.
so freaked out about how everyone else feels, if I have other things to do, just general life stressors. I've learned to be more present, and I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and I will also say, as a working mom, I have a phenomenal boss that has helped me through this time as well. That not everybody is so lucky to have, and that has been a huge help for me in my professional life so that I can focus some time on my personal life as well. So I
Mhm.
am privileged very much so in that sense.
Yeah, and so it's not to say that. So living bold and balanced, which is my new brand for my coaching, right? But living a bold life, boldly as yourself, and a balanced life, which there is no cookie cutter balance. It's just whatever balance is for you, it's custom to you, and we craft that together so you can live that. But living in that bold and balanced way isn't to say that there will be no storms in life, right? It's to weather the storms without feeling completely lost, completely torn down from them. And so I hear Zoe saying that is it's not that there's never any stress in her life anymore, but the way she responds to it and handles it is very different now. And how it impacts her also is very different now than it was, say, even just 4, 5, 6 months ago. And I also can relate to that too through my own journeys. It's not about fixing everything and everyone, which we want to believe, our logical mind wants to believe to fix it. It's really about how we're being and being differently. That leads to us doing life differently. And so Zoe, I really like to close these interviews with a piece of inspiration. And by that, I mean the whole purpose really of this group is to inspire and enact meaningful change and create these meaningful connections for all of us. And so I want to ask you, you have shared your story to inspire us, which we appreciate. And so, who is someone, whether it's someone you directly know or someone that you don't directly know, like a celebrity or something, that is an inspiration to you, that when you think about or you look at, they are inspiring to you? Who comes to mind for you that's inspirational?
That is hands down my mother. She that will be my answer
Yeah.
from the time I'm little till the day I die. She was a single mom for the majority of my life. Um, my father passed away when I was 2, and my brother was a baby. And she seemed to manage everything with grace. And we were never wanting for anything. We didn't have a lot of money, but we weren't wanting for anything. And the love that I felt, and I talked about this before with Dr. Toni, the love and the safety that I felt in my home as a child with my mother was something that I hope to create in my family. And she, she just is such a great support to have, and I wish for everyone that they have somebody like that in their life that is their biggest cheerleader, but gives it to them when they need it.
Yeah.
um,
Yes. Beautiful.
yeah,
Beautiful.
she is definitely my inspiration.
Yes. Thank you so much, Zoe. I am so, so grateful of you, of your gifts, of your time, of your story, of your willingness to just share with us. Anyone that catches the replay, please do, hashtag inspire. Go ahead and ask any questions that you have for myself or Zoe. We would be happy to answer those as honestly as we're able to, as best we're able to. Zoe, any last words before we close the live today?
For anybody that is feeling trapped today, take a moment for yourself and just think about yourself for 5 to 10 minutes today and do something that just brings you joy or peace, and just see how you can change your mind just with those 5 minutes.
Mm.
I found meditation in the past 2 years, and it's so wonderful, but it doesn't have to be formal. Just, I think we really have a hard time taking care of ourselves, and just take a minute, no matter what's going on around you. And I think that is a powerful thing to do,
Yeah,
each day for ourselves.
so important. We're so busy rushing all the time. And if we're just
Yeah.
willing to not do that sometimes, it makes a life altering difference. I agree. I agree. So beautifully stated.
Yeah.
Thank you all who joined us today. See someone else came on live. Go ahead, let us know you're here. Please do hashtag inspire. Share any words to Zoe and thankfulness to her for sharing her story. I know I am so deeply appreciative of Zoe and just all that she's allowed me to do to just be there for her and be a part of her journey. I never take that lightly. So thank you so much. I'm going to close.